Hey everyone, what's up? It's your girl Rachel here. Welcome to another special AMA today. Today I'm joined by Serge Var. He is the CEO and co-founder of Point Labs. Hi Serge, how's it going?
Hi Rachel, yeah, thanks for having me. All good on this side. Can see you.
Yeah, wonderful. Well, thanks again for joining us. Audience, before we get started, I want to remind you guys to please drop your questions in the chat below. Serge is here to answer those. He's an expert when it comes to all things Web3. So let's get started. Serge, first question, what is Point Labs?
Yeah, so starting with easy questions, Point Labs is the company that is building the software that we have, Point Network, which is, as we say, world's first real full Web 3.0, right? Completely decentralized internet, this dream that many technologies have been having, and now it's here, right? And it started with the idea and then the prototype, and then finally we are launching right now, like this month. And so first of all, it's a good time to launch, right? Because of all the things that we probably will talk about, the tornado cache incidents and all the Web3 supposedly decentralized projects, censoring everything, right? And many other things. So it's a good timing, but of course, so I did the first idea and then prototype, and then of course, only thanks to the team at Point Labs, it's now from a junky prototype to a proper just one-click installation. The Point browser opens and you're on Web3. So that's the team that's doing this.
Got it. Let's dig in a little bit deeper. What are the goals behind the platform and what problems does it aim to solve?
Right, so it's a peer-to-peer network, and the main idea is that for many years and decades, there were many projects that were pushing for decentralization of one thing or another, and it worked really well, right? So BitTorrent pushed for decentralization of the file storage and file sharing. For example, there was before that there was Napster and Mega by Kim.com, right? And we know how that ended up. So government just shuts down all those platforms. But then someone created BitTorrent, and finally, file sharing became decentralized, and many people want to shut it down, but they cannot. In the same way, Bitcoin was created, right? Even before Bitcoin, there were many digital currencies, but only Bitcoin was able to do a full decentralization of money, right? So Bitcoin decentralized money successfully and cannot be shut down, cannot be censored, etc. But there was always this dream that maybe we can decentralize the whole internet, starting with domains and storage and everything, right? So that we can get rid of censorship and mass surveillance and all those things. That's the idea of Web3, right? That's the dream. And we've been looking at other projects trying to do that, and we haven't found anything close. So that's why we decided to build it, and now it's finally live. In terms of what problems it's trying to solve, it's mostly the censorship and mass surveillance, right? And there are two groups of people that are users and enjoy using this. One of them is the crypto users. Of course, they know a lot about this and about Web3 and decentralization. And of course, there's normal people. Well, normal people, I mean, you know what I mean, right? Crypto people are weird. I stand by my words.
Not crypto natives.
Yeah, it's a diverse group, but yes. So we need to teach normal people even why they need this, right? Like everyone else, I mean. And to them, I say, look, in 2022, fortunately, people know about this and know about, first of all, the mass surveillance, right? Snowden did it in 2013 when he showed the documents by the government saying that everything is like all our private information, private files, photos, videos, pictures, location history, everything gets streamed into data centers of spy agencies of different governments, right? The NSA in the United States, etc. And then since then, nothing has changed, right? And they tried to do this legal battle. Of course, there was an outcry in the public, but nothing has changed. And so Snowden says there are two ways. One is the legal way, and the other route is technological route. And the legal way failed, unfortunately, but there is this hope for the technological innovation that can change this, and encryption, end-to-end encryption, and all those things. So that's about the mass surveillance, right? Because this is still happening. Billions of people, all the information getting collected and then abused. It's not even used for like to battle terrorists or whatever. They use it for their own personal reasons and career reasons and political reasons. One just has to go to Wikipedia to like type Lovins, right, to see what just young guys have access to everyone's private information. They would do what they do. So the full encryption is supposed to stop it. And then the second portion is censorship. And again, maybe 2 years ago I had to explain to people. Now I don't have to. Everyone knows about censorship, especially like in the West, right? The big tech, they're just banning people, and people don't even know why. And big content creators, right? They get banned every time. Crypto creators, and even like people that have millions of subscribers on Twitter, on YouTube, millions of people want to watch them or listen to them, and then they just get suspended, right? And of course, they can get restored, right? As you know, like they go on Twitter and then YouTube, oh, sorry, we restored your account. But what about those hundreds of thousands of people that just, they tried to build their audience, but they didn't realize that it wasn't their audience, it was big tech's audience, and they were renting it from them. And so, again, Point Network Web3 is supposed to get rid of it, Web3 done right, where they own their audience and they have decentralized social media and they can do whatever. So they have freedom of speech and they can post, and the audience belongs to them and the monetization belongs to them, not like half of that being predatorily taken by big tech companies, etc. So that's the two things. And for crypto people, it's mostly the Web3 decentralization, right? Because probably we'll talk that Web3 is not really Web3 right now and not decentralized. Especially it was in this month, it became obvious. That's the two groups.
Right. Yeah. No, I agree. It has become obvious there is a lack of decentralization that we're seeing. We're seeing a lot of hacks. But I want to know, in terms of a use case for the Point Network, what would one of the main use cases be?
Yeah, so we have many, right? So if you go to our website, pointnetwork.io, and click roadmap, and you will see it's not the roadmap you expect, right? On Q4 we do this and then we do this. It's a big Trello-like website, and it has all those things, the infrastructure that we've built, but also tens of projects that could be, if this real Web3 is finally done, and then teams are building on that. One of them is Point Social, which is completely decentralized and uncensorable social network that we have, and that's the application that most users of Point browser enjoy. There is Point Mail, which is end-to-end encrypted email, right? We talked about mass surveillance, and it starts there. And then, for example, Point Drive, which is like Google Drive, but with end-to-end encryption, where you don't have to worry about, that your files might get deleted, or surveilled, etc., etc. So many different projects. I could talk about that for. Yes, I see the picture is up. You can see many different projects we have, and of course we're still a small team, so we invite anyone if they want to build on top of real Web3, and to help us build the rest of the projects that Web3 needs right now. So subscriptions, right, which we don't have that. For example, some content creators on the blockchain even, right, they have subscription newsletters, but they decided not to use Bitcoin, even those that are pro-crypto, because they said that we cannot make people subscribe and then pay each month, because on Bitcoin there's only push payments, or Ethereum or whatever, right? But what if we can make it the smart contract that can do pull payments, like credit card? You subscribed and then it's automatically being charged, and that's how you get access to all those paywalled articles, etc., right, with one click. So many things like that. The vaults, you all remember the hack that probably, in the Solana ecosystem, a lot of people remembered with Phantom Wallet, and it was the Slope Wallet that did this. And so we were talking with the Solana team as well, foundation, how we can make vaults where most of your money is stored in one wallet, and then you need 24 hours so if you want to withdraw, you will have 24 hours to see that your money is withdrawn. If it's an attacker, you can still revert it with a second key. Stuff like that. I could talk about that for many.
Yeah. No, so it's an entirely decentralized network. Everything on the network is decentralized. Yes. The storage. So yeah, that's amazing. I'm going to take a quick question from an audience member. The Zed creator is asking, where will these apps reside? So I'm assuming the apps on the network, where will they reside?
Yes, so that's a very good question, right? Because right now, all the Web3 projects, they call themselves Web3, but the only decentralized part is smart contract, right? So for example, there was this project called Badger DAO, and the smart contract was audited to death, but at the same time, they trusted Cloudflare for the user interface, right? And then Cloudflare got hacked, their account got hacked, and that's how they were able to inject malicious things into that, and $130 million were lost. And the same thing literally happened twice this month. So for example, curve.fi got hacked because of the name servers, because again, everything, the rest is completely centralized, right? And they say, oh, sorry, our name servers got hacked, and they changed it. And then the whole ETH.link, so many people in Ethereum, right, have .eth handles, right, which is like the blockchain domains. But the browsers don't understand .eth natively. And so people say, oh, how about we use .eth.link, which is a gateway that browsers can understand. But it's a centralized gateway. And funny thing happened, well, not funny for people that might have lost money or whatever, but Ethereum Name Service Foundation, ENS Foundation, that was in charge of this, they forgot to renew the domain. And so the domain expired, and it went into the hands of someone else. And all the thousands of decentralized applications on Ethereum, for people that were accessing it through the centralized gateway, they were down. And it was replaced by a phishing list of phishing leads, etc. Right? So in this case, what happens? So that's why we were for complete decentralization, because that's the only way it works. The domains are on the blockchain .point, but normal browsers don't understand .point. So we have our own Point browser, which is just another app people download, and then inside the Point browser they can only use .point domains and only the decentralized storage, which is on Arviv. We use Arviv for decentralized storage. And we made it completely isolated from Web2. So it's growing as its own ecosystem, as its own network, Web3, right? And it should be this way. It's like blockchains are completely isolated from the external world, so much so you have to use oracles, right, to bring information from one side to another. So similar here, because we don't want any application developers to say, oh, our application is decentralized, and then actually not do that and still ping their centralized servers and store NFTs on freaking AWS, and then ping Google Analytics for IP addresses and spy on people. No, in Point browser, Web2 is completely disconnected, and only the decentralized storage, right? And that's what makes it censorship resistant and against mass surveillance and everything. So the domains are decentralized, the storage is decentralized on Arviv, and we, like, instead of using MetaMask, which if it gets deleted tomorrow, a lot of people will be confused what to do next, right? But what we do is we even replace that, and we mimic all the APIs of those wallets, so it's in the browser. So if you get Uniswap onto Point Network, they feel right at home. They don't need to change anything. All the skills Web3 developers you already have, you can just use there, because instead of MetaMask, it will just open a confirmation window. So that's the several things.
Yeah, I mean, that opens up a lot of questions from me, but I'm going to continue because the audience now has a lot of questions. So I'm going to focus on those first. Let's see. So Dream Big is asking, how will creators benefit from Point Network specifically?
Well, like I said, right now, the problem is that the creator economy is now centralized, and big tech took over everything, right? They monopolized. And that's the idea behind this Web 1, 2, and 3. Web 1 was mostly a read-only web, but the main thing is it was almost decentralized. Everyone had their own homepage and the blog and everything, right? And then came Web 2, and big tech companies monopolized everything. Now you don't have your own audience, like your own newsletter or something. You rent it from big tech, right? And they allow you to use the audience, right? No matter how many people you have, like thousands of people, hundreds of thousands, and they can take it away at any moment, right? By any reason, and you have no recourse, basically. You cannot do anything. And so this will already help, because creators will have peace of mind that they can do this. But it also opens many more possibilities. Like all those apps, they cannot even do tipping properly, right? But on decentralized social media, you can actually do that. And then all those predatory fees, like they charge like half of that or 20%. Actually, on Web3, you can have your own thing where people can subscribe to you, and you take the whole thing, right? Or some small cut to the application developers, whatever the DApp will be. But I think that's going to be very useful and helpful to many creators that are now deplatformed, like thousands of them. Yeah.
Right. I'm also going to take a question from Ikwan. They're asking how much supply of points. So that's the token that powers the network, correct?
Yeah. I guess they're asking because we are launching literally, right? The public sale launched today, and then in 2 weeks we are launching the mainnet. But yeah, you can just see on the main website there is the on the top bar. You can click and you can see the whole tokenomics. Yeah, the supply is 1 billion. It started with that, and then there's some inflation to the stakers and validators. And because it's a proof of stake chain, right? So you have to, if you start the blockchain from zero, but you don't have proof of work, you have proof of stake. If nobody has anything, if everyone starts from zero, it's not secure. So there has to be initial for all proof of stake projects. That's why they do it. There's not even an option to do something else. But yeah, you can get all the information there. And like we don't, unfortunately, we cannot sell directly to some jurisdictions, like even to the United States, right? But we can airdrop some tokens for free. So if you're from the United States, you can just write, and without any obligation, we can just send you some to play with the network and see how it works, because we want you to be a part of this movement as well. But yeah,
no, that's cool. I'm curious to see how it works as well. And so with that in mind, let's talk about the launch of the mainnet. And you said that's supposed to happen September 1st.
Mm-hmm.
Can you go into some detail there about what we can expect with the launch?
Yeah, I mean, so the main thing for us is that like we had several test nets, right? And now we have a test net that's open to the public, and not just alpha, not just closed. But of course, we just want to launch the network already and have something that people can already have the point token, which is going to be the main default payment method on this new network, on this new decentralized internet that we're building, right? For everything, basically. If you have like subscriptions to someone, if you send invoices to someone, whatever feature we build, of course, this is going to be the default token. But at the same time, we try to avoid all this like a lot of toxicity. Like, I'm in crypto for quite a while. I've been watching other projects, and they like to compete with each other. But instead, we just want to integrate everyone, right? So instead of competing with them, with platforms, we say, hey, we don't limit you to point chain, right? Which is where the point token is. For example, you can open uniswap.point, and the Uniswap will open. And the UI is going to be completely decentralized. It's not like uniswap.org. And all the, we're probably going to talk about Tornado Cash and what they do. So Uniswap is not completely decentralized because they ping their servers to do this. But the main idea is that when you click the button to swap, it happens on the Ethereum chain, because Point browser has the Point wallet integrated. So whatever you want. And then the next minute you might go to Radium, right, which is on Solana ecosystem. And then again, in the same browser, and then you click, but it happens on the Solana chain. So we don't force people to just, oh, this is what we have, this is Web3. We believe that the future of Web3 is collaborative, right? And then we see which chain is better, and the natural evolution of things.
Got it. Okay. I'm going to take another question from the audience. Zed Creator is asking, could all of these things be manageable from our computer while not depending on your server storage?
Okay, this question shows that still some people don't understand exactly what we have, or don't believe that it is possible, and that's what's blocking them from understanding that this is an option. There are no servers. It's not stored on servers. For example, the blockchain, the things on the blockchain, the .point domains, they are in the smart contracts, right, on the blockchain. So it's on everyone's computer that's running the nodes. But then, of course, one of the problems was you cannot store petabytes of information on the blockchain because it's infeasible, right? And that's why the blockchains are already bloated and it's expensive. And that's why there are decentralized storage projects, right? Well, IPFS, you might know, for example, about IPFS and Filecoin. And Arweave is one of those storage projects. And what you do is basically you pay micropayments to those storage providers so that they store the files for you and then serve them on the web. And so the main difference with IPFS, for example, on IPFS, if you have something up there and you're online, it's okay. But as soon as you go to sleep, all your decentralized Facebook posts or whatever, they go offline as well. And unless someone pins your content, shares it, but they're not going to do it, because why would they store your dog or cat pictures or whatever, right? But here you're just paying micropayments and tokens to storage providers, and they keep it up 24/7 online while you go to sleep. And it's uncensorable. Like if half of the Arweave network goes down, the other half will still continue to serve your content and your websites and your decentralized applications and your decentralized Twitter posts, etc., etc. So that's how it works. There is no servers, and you don't need to have your computer. You just go, and then you close the laptop, you go to sleep, your website is up without being on any specific server, on any IP address. So that's what we try to do. It's like BitTorrent, but for the whole web.
And then I'm curious, Serge. So like right now you're using Arweave, but will you incorporate Filecoin and other decentralized storage providers moving forward?
Sure, like we needed to start somewhere, right? Because imagine if it was already hard enough to launch an infrastructure project in the middle of the NFT craze, right? When we try to raise money from the VCs, and then they have like some infrastructure projects and a lot of NFT and metaverse and whatever, right? So and now even in the bear market, it's not much changed because most of them are broke, right? Yes, going back to, so we had to limit our scope, right? We cannot integrate everyone at the same time, even though we want to in the future. But that's what we want to do in the long term. So we are not isolating anyone. We're not forcing anyone to use point chain or RVIF. And yes, in the future, it's only the trade-offs, right? So we can integrate IPFS right now, but the problem is if people start using it and they go offline, half of our content will be down, right? So that's not very useful. But if they do it with RVIF or Filecoin in the future, with Filecoin there were also some considerations. For example, in order to be a Filecoin miner, you need to have very expensive hardware, GPUs to have crunch zero knowledge proofs, etc. And RVIF doesn't have that. But we are welcome to anyone can just put a plugin and implement what they want.
Yeah, I'm also curious why you've decided to launch the mainnet now. It seems like this is a very complex project, extremely complex actually, and maybe you've been thinking about it for a while, but now that Web3 is on the rise and now you're ready to launch the mainnet September 1st. So what kind of drove that decision to launch now is what I'm asking versus last year?
Yeah, well, Web3 is not on the rise. Like our position is that there's no real Web3, right? There was no real Web3 until now, because all of this was Web 2.5. So people conflate the dream of Web3, this completely decentralized internet that people, technologists care about and wanted to do, with the reality. And they sell a lot of Web3 projects as if they are Web3, and then reality hits, and they see that unfortunately, right, the domains are censored, and then Cloudflare is getting hacked and all this, right? So there was no real Web3 until this time. So that's what we hope. About the timing, yes, I mean, one of the things we should really make clear is that this is all experimental software, right? Those are all experiments in technology. Like, expect chaos, nobody knows what's going to happen. And but that also, that's the main factor that doesn't stop us from making progress, right? Because if it's experimental software, we should do it instead of waiting 5 or 10 more years if we already have the working alpha. And also we hope that people will start building on top of it, right? And there are 2 layers to this, right? So the point chain, that's the mainnet. So this one we are blockchain agnostic. We can use any other chain. We try to do Polygon. We're trying the EVMOS testnet. It's the browser that is experimental, right? So even if, for example, someone buys in a public sale, we put the message that don't send all your money to point browser yet, right? Because this is the product in progress. But the mainnet, the chain is, well, we hope that it's secure enough. We piggyback of good work of EVMOS team and others, right? But that's the idea. So we already want our own token so that it has value in the sense of it has a ticker and it has a price, so that when you send likes on decentralized social media, they have something. It's not testnet tokens. It's not useless and people just send to each other. It's something that we can play with already and see what economic game theory plays we have on top of that and how people react. So that's the main thing why we already need to do that. Yeah. And we worked for, so before that, like, we worked for 2 years on that, right? We see other projects, they just launch a white paper and the token, and that's it. And then they promise to do some product. We decided, no, we do it the right way. Even before they launch the token, we first make sure that we have the product and we have users. We post products and post users, and that's what we've done. So after 1.5 years, I think it's time to make it official.
Yeah, and obviously that's extremely important. I just want to remind the audience, keep sending us your questions. This is a really interesting topic because it's like, this is the real Web3. Let's see here. I'm going to take this question from the audience. Hafid is asking, what is the difference between Point Network and ICP? I don't know what ICP is. So Serge, maybe you can answer that.
Well, it's the product called Internet Computer by Dfinity Foundation, right? So they were called Dfinity, then they rebranded. And normally, like, we try not to say some things about project, like, we are just doing our own things, right? There's enough toxicity on the internet. But unfortunately, when you have a website that says we are the real Web3 for the first time, there are gonna come people from other projects and say, no, we already have Web3. And then what happens is usually they come to our Twitter threads and they want to fight us and do public debates. And a lot of them lose, right? So, for example, well, I'm not going to name names. Just in the case of ICP, it wasn't too bad because they honestly admitted after we had this conversation, because ICP fans came to us and said, no, you're the Dfinity, one of the Dfinity community people says, called as pointless network. And instead of it's an amusing pun, okay, good to him, good for him. But instead of doing this back and forth, we just showed him the part where it says ICP is not decentralized, even the developers admit. And then what ensued is the public conversation. You can see it on our Twitter. And in the end, they said, yes, ICP is not decentralized in this way, the access to ICP. And that's why we will continue working on it. And we said, hey, we can just integrate you and save you years of R&D, right? So let's talk about this. So we'll see what's going to happen. But I prefer not to talk about other projects because there's a lot of
and integration, I feel like, is always the best way to go in the space, and just working together to solve these problems. I'm curious, Serge, because I recently explored this topic, and I want to get your thoughts on it. Are you leveraging, is Point Network leveraging multi-party computation at all for the encryption, just to kind of make the network super secure?
We don't have any layers where this would be needed, and I'm trying to remember, right? The multi-party computation, that's probably not the Shamir shared secret, but probably the shared computation, homomorphic encryption, and all this stuff. But I might be wrong. There's a lot of stuff that I have missed while I've been working on the main Web3 stuff. So instead of trying to create, like, come up with BS answers, right? It will probably be best to ask us later, and we will probably have an article on that. But I don't see any layer where this would be needed yet. And if it's needed, like even zero knowledge, for example, it's a cool thing, but we don't use it because we saw no need for it yet in what we do. But other projects that build on top of us, like, for example, even Tornado Cache that we talked about, right, and others, privacy projects, they leverage zero knowledge proofs, and good for them, right? So I'm not even going there. I'm staying in my lane, so to speak, right, on the basic internet protocols, because let's decentralize those first. And for the security, we have validators. Yeah.
Got it. Validators. Okay, cool. Good to know. Going back to the audience questions, because we've got a few of those coming in. So Golangan is asking, I'm interested about the Point articles on Medium. Can I be an official translator in the Point Network articles? I guess it also just shows about, like, the community and how involved they can be.
Well, yes, it shows, but at the same time, like, we have those questions, like hundreds in our DMs, right? And one even ended up on the official AMA of Cointelegraph. But well, I mean, yes. So send us an email to info@pointnetwork.io, and we'll figure it out, right? So I don't even know which language, right? The official translator, because we have some already lined up. But thank you for the, yeah.
Are the articles, are they in English? Or are there other languages that they're in?
Most of the articles in English, but on Discord we have a community, and some of them translate for free, and then we give them some gifts.
Okay.
Like on the bounty campaign. Maybe that's what he's asking. But just write us a message, and our operations team will deal with it. I have a lot on my plate too.
Got it. Okay, Dream Big is asking, will Point domains remain free after the launch? Is there any advantage over unstoppable domains? So
see, here's what we did, right? We had a name system. Many domain name systems already exist, like .eth, right, that we talked about, Ethereum name system, and even ICP has those, and you can see a lot of .crypto, unstoppable domains, etc. But at the same time, they all suffer one thing. For example, there are cyber squatters that go and buy a lot of domains, thousands of those, right? And then imagine if some famous person comes in, I mean, Elon Musk, just the first that comes to mind, right? And goes to the platform, or some even companies, Microsoft, Samsung, whatever, and they see that their handle is already taken, and they would be like, okay, why? Like, they lose interest in the network and what's going on, right? Because now they have to buy for millions of dollars this handle or use something else, like real Elon Musk, but even that can be bought, so it would be real Rachel, etc. Right? So what we did instead is, for the first 6 months, there is a simple centralized oracle running, and it scans the Twitter for activation. So basically, if you have Twitter, you can have your Twitter handle claimed on Point. So it would be your Twitter handle plus .point. And then after 6 months, it's disconnected, and then it's completely free. But again, it will probably be auctioned off. Otherwise, people would be just buying all those handles, right? So But what you have right now, it will stay with you, so it will not be taken away. And if you already have the handle, we're not going to do some rent like other name servers are doing. But yeah, it's yours. You can already take it.
Got it. Okay, wonderful. Audience, keep the questions coming. These are really great. I'm going to take a question from Mary Evans. They're asking, if our team wants to deploy an NFT project on Point Network, do we need to create a platform first like OpenSea, or will there be your analog? I'm not really sure what that means, but Serge, maybe you understand.
Okay, that's a good question. So see, the thing is, if we just, so again, you can look at our roadmap, right? We have a lot of things to build, and one of them is the infrastructure, right? The domains, the storage, the node, etc. But if we just did that, imagine nobody, like, okay, they download the browser and it's empty. There is no default projects, right? They just go away if we wait for others to build. So if we, yes, those. So we cannot build all of those. Like if you can scroll right, there's a lot of them. But at least we can build something, right? So it's like on, let's say, Apple ecosystem. There is the main Apple OS, right, or iOS, and they also have their own apps. So there are thousands and tens of thousands of apps that others are developing. And then there are some apps like Notes, right, and Pages and Numbers and all this stuff. So we are trying to build at least something, but of course, we don't have all the resources in the world. Maybe because of your NFT projects. I'm just kidding, because a lot of the spotlight they took away from projects that are not as flashy because infrastructure is not fun and doesn't have pretty pictures. But yeah, so we have NFT marketplace that we are going. Well, okay, I should not promise anything, right? Because of the legal team told me not to. But we want, let's just say, to build an NFT marketplace. But if not, other developers, are welcome to join. We always need more because it's not going to be just one team. Hopefully, it's going to be a community effort.
Yeah, that's interesting. A 100% decentralized NFT marketplace. That's really exciting.
Yeah,
and needed.
So, OpenSea. There was this article by Moxie Markenspike, or sorry, I think I butchered his name. Sorry, Moxie. He's a creator of Signal, and then he went into a Web3 and he wanted to create something that he said, oh, it's completely decentralized. It's a very good article. It's completely centralized. That's what he said. And then one of the things is he created an NFT that turns into a poop emoji from whatever pretty picture he had before in MetaMask, right? And then OpenSea banned his NFT, and he's like, okay, that's definitely not decentralized. And then after OpenSea banned the NFT, MetaMask stopped showing it because MetaMask uses OpenSea and Infura and all those centralized things, right? And so people don't realize it, unfortunately, but soon they will, after like Tornado Cash getting banned from all the platforms, etc. And only those, after the war between governments and big tech will ensue, and Web3, right? Governments and big tech against Web3. And this is just the first the first signal. Only those projects will remain that are completely centralized. Otherwise, they can just, if it can happen by negligence, all those .eth.link domains, right? If someone can just forget to renew the domain and lose the domains this way, what stops them from just taking the domain away? The domain registrars, the DNS, all those attack points. And so that's what we don't want to happen, right?
Yeah. Serge, so I'm curious because, and I understand what you're saying for sure. Like this is needed now. We're starting to see the warnings of the fact that there really isn't decentralization in a lot of these projects. But I feel like it's going to be very complicated to get users to use a fully decentralized network only because it's so new and maybe complex. So how do you plan on combating that challenge and like showing users that this is actually easy to use and manageable, I guess?
Well, I mean, you should try it, right? It's not scary. It feels exactly like normal Web 2, right? So let's say our Point Social, which is the decentralized social network that we have, it feels exactly like, let's say, Twitter, right? But of course, it's on decentralized infrastructure, and people only notice this when they see the .point domain at the top, right? But it feels exactly the same, and they interact with it. So that's what we wanted to do. We wanted to bring Web 2 interfaces into Web 3 because hopefully that will improve mass adoption of all Web3 projects, right? Not just ours. And so that's the idea, right? So it's not scary, and the UIs will become better and better, and they already are. I mean, not just us, but in general in Web3. And so people will get used to it, right? It was the same with the internet, right? People couldn't use email properly, and now everyone, no matter what age, what background, they just swipe, right? Because the interface is easier. So it's just a matter of the maturity of all the software and user interfaces and all the startups that are building that.
Yeah. Okay. Great answer. I'm going to take another question from the audience. And guys, we have about 5 more minutes, so keep your questions coming. Mary Evans is asking, will there be any documentation for creating smart contracts available for developers, for example, to move from Solana or Solidity to Point Network?
Oh, like I said, it's already, so our network is EVM compatible, right? So meaning that already all the Solidity skills that you know, you can already deploy all those things on top of Point Network, right? So, the same thing for other networks. So for example, you don't have to even move to our network. You can just, the contract can stay there, and you can just deploy UI if you want. So it can be multi-staged move to Point Network ecosystem, right? So if some team, Uniswap, whatever, some team wants to become completely decentralized, they can just first deploy the UI user interface, and then the contract will stay on Ethereum, right, or on Solana if it's Radium, for example, etc. And then when you click, the browser will reroute everything. It connects to all the chains that are adopted already by the browser, and we want to produce more. And so you don't have to know anything different. And again, you don't need to learn almost anything except the new things that we do. Let's say we do subscriptions on the blockchain, right? Some teams build something different. For example, like you said, right, secure multi-party computation, whatever crazy things they build, it will require new APIs that are simply not there in any of the Web3 projects, right? And we will have to integrate that. So of course you will have to learn those. And we already have a little bit of like Point SDK API, and we have documentation on that. You can click on the website. But mostly all your Solidity skills are preserved, and you can think like when you move your application from there to Point, it will just connect, thinking that it's talking to the MetaMask or Phantom Wallet, but in actuality it's connecting to the browser and doesn't even know about it. So everything is transparent this way. So
yes.
should be fun.
Serge, so given that response, has it been easy or challenging to find developers to help build out this network?
Well, yes, it's like I said, it's the problem with marketing at all for infrastructure projects, right? Because of course, all those flashy projects that have NFT sales or whatever, you can see I'm jaded by NFTs, right? Because they steal the spotlight a lot. And we even had the thread explaining that how we can actually make it more palatable for infrastructure and security projects to survive on Web3. And we said, how about every DAO that has, it's not going to be forced, but just let's socially accept that every DAO or most DAOs would start doing this, and they would allocate some percentage of the resources, let's say like, I don't know, 0.2% of their tokens or their revenue of the DAO to the libraries that they use. Okay, you use Bootstrap library, you use Web3.js, you use whatever, right? All of those will automatically go to those libraries, right? And then those libraries will pay their dependencies, and they will pay the developers that are doing that. And then, open source will flourish, right? Because right now, what's the incentive basically for developers to build on top of Web3? Not just Point, but in Ethereum, etc. If they don't do the project, but they do just some libraries, because someone's just going to take it and use for free in their multi-million NFT project, right? And nothing going there. But if we kind of do this trickle-down thing, but it goes to the actual developers, maybe it will be more, maybe it will even be more lucrative than enterprise jobs and working on some CRM in some company. And people will say, now we can actually build an open source, because if my library becomes famous, and other projects uses big projects, even though my project is not as flashy, it comes to me, right? Our project and our developers get more funding, and they continue to operate that way, right? So it's not a quick discussion, but you can look it up on our Twitter. The suggestion, and we're probably going to do that and start with us as well.
Yeah, no, it's interesting. We have a few more minutes, Serge, so I just want to ask one question. Well, first of all, what can we expect next from Point Network? And also, how soon do you think the world is to achieving true decentralization from actual Web3 projects? Like, how close are we to that threshold, I guess?
I mean, we are launching, right? So it's already so the infrastructure is basically done, the architecture itself, right? But of course, as I said, it's an experimental project, and there's still a long way to go with in terms of making it completely secure. Even though there's no such thing as completely secure, but we should strive for it, etc. Right? So there's still going to be some time before the platform matures and the APIs mature, etc., etc. In terms of what's next, I mean, you can see on our roadmap what our vision for Web3 is. It's called roadmap to Web3, right? And that's what we think like all those projects will become. But honestly, we probably don't even know what's going to happen, right? If you ask like, I don't know, if you ask any project founder, like if you ask Vitalik back then when he was creating Ethereum, what kinds of projects would be, there is no way he would have said, oh yes, there's going to be NFTs and DeFi and CryptoKitties, right? And all those things, because and ERC20, right? So it's only later that we figure out, oh, okay, that's what happens. And the same happens, let's say, creators of the internet, when they created basic internet protocols and they got asked like, what's, what's going to happen? They would have no idea, right? And we will see in the future. Like there's a clip of Bill Gates and Letterman back in the past, I don't know, 90s probably, where he's trying to explain to David Letterman the internet and cannot, because it says, oh, you can watch any game and stream the play. And he says, well, we have radio for that. What have you heard of radio? And he says, oh, but you can record it. And Letterman says, have you heard about VCRs, right? You can record. And so it was hard to explain, but only later we see so many things that the internet has brought. So I guess let's see. Let's wait and see what happens.
Right, exactly. Yeah, I guess we'll just wait and see what happens. Serge, we're basically out of time. So before we end the AMA, if the audience has more questions for you, how should they get in touch?
Yes, I'm most active on our Telegram chat and Discord, but not as much. So you can just go to our website, which is pointnetwork.io. Or you know what, you can just type into Google real Web3 and our website comes up first, right? So that way you don't misspell it. But yes, then you click it and then you can see in social media our Telegram chat, and you can ask us questions, you can email us, and we'll try our best to respond. And if you want to be part of the project, become a developer, we will try our best to also integrate you into the ecosystem. And if you want to become an early adopter, so you can see it there.
Great, wonderful. Well, Serge, it's been a pleasure speaking with you. It's a fascinating project. I can't wait to see how it unfolds. It's timely and very needed right now. And I want to just thank the audience for joining us and for sending us your questions. These have been great questions. And I just want to remind everyone to subscribe to Cointelegraph's YouTube channel. We do AMAs like this all the time. So yeah, it's been wonderful being here. And with that being said, I guess we're going to say goodbye now.
Thank you, Rachel. Likewise. It was a pleasure.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thanks, guys. Bye.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.